Well, hey, I appreciate you taking your time for coming over here to what we usually have our monthly virtual intelligence meeting. It's kind of cool. What we did is Davey always usually leads these, and he's always got a lot of people coming in, and it's awesome. But what we decided to do was give Davey the next this summer off, so the next 3 months, and said, "Hey, dude, we'll let me do one. Michael Cruz is doing one next week or next month, and I can't remember. I can't remember right now who's in August. Maybe it's Mitch or something. I think it is Mitch. But then Davey will be back doing a lot of these things. It's a way that we like to get out there and get in front of people. And I appreciate you guys coming today and announcing that I was going to be kind of leading this. So that gives me a little bit of a confidence boost. But no, I'm excited to be in front of you because if you do or you don't know, I've created a manual. You can go to agencyintelligencemanual.com. You can download it for free. It's 72 pages of my brain. And what I see agencies building and what your agency should look like for the year 2030. I break it down for you. I give you frameworks, models. I give you the metrics, how to figure out those metrics. I give you an implementation guide. I can tell you about AI agentic overlays. I give you case studies. I give you checklists of things to do. I mean, I lay it out there for you because I think it's important. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this is the first time I have ever given this presentation, promise 100%. And I plan to get to perfect it so I can go around America for the next 24 months and preach this gospel because I think it's very, very important. And I think it's going to take a while for people to get on the train. So we just got to start talking now, right? You know, it's like 17 times you got to pass a billboard before you take action. Well, let's get the billboard up, right? So that we can get people seeing this stuff. So that's what I want to talk about today. Then towards the end, because this is not going to last very long, I wouldn't imagine so. Then at the end, I'll take questions. We're going to open up the manual. I have the manual if you're looking at it. And then we can just kind of dive in. At the end of the day, this is Virtual Intelligence. This is a company that I do own. And it all comes back to VEs at the end of the day. There's a big saying and big thought out there right now that VEs won't be around in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. No, I severely disagree with that. Now, because I own the company, that does give me some good insight, but it doesn't put blinders on Jason Cass. It has to do with the fact that VEs will be managing. If you're an office of 10 today, 8 of them are licensed, 2 of them are VEs. That same agency in 5 to 10 years will look like 3 licensed with 2 or 3 VEs and thousands of bots. It's actually the license that will go away. And the only reason is that's nothing bad. That just happens to be that over the last 30 to 40 years, without knowing what we know now, every time we needed somebody, we hired. And so now we're actually realizing that, hey, we don't necessarily need all that stuff. And we do still need the people, but they fall in different roles. So that's what this is about. This is a story. This is a story about an agent that you guys know. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. This is a story. It's not a tech talk. It's really not. Maybe at the end we'll talk about the tech and show you. And if you guys have any questions with the manual, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. It's about a survival story. I really truly believe that. I believe that for a lot of agents. I want you to introduce you to this girl. Her name is Andrea. She's 44 years old. She's got an agency of about 1.6 million in revenue, and she's a 15-person team. Inside the manual, I don't do like everybody else and start at $1 million. I go all the way down to a 0 and say, well, this is what that person should look like. This right here is a very important fact because when you look at her statistics, as we talk about, Andrea is stressed out. She really, truly is. And I mean, she's overwhelmed. She's literally stressed out on everything that's happening. She doesn't know what's being tracked. She doesn't know what's falling behind. And she's just living like a kind of a life that like that we just kind of normally expect. It's one that we all know about. And I mean, here's the thing about it. is that just like it says here, she's not lazy and not resistant. She's unarmed. She's using tools for an agency model that now is becoming obsolete. And it's been building for a while. She's noticed it's been building with email. Email was great at the beginning, but the inboxes became stuffed with all different types of stuff, and we still use it very inefficiently today. She noticed that. She noticed that social media and marketing had taken over, and she had no way to measure those metrics. She didn't know who was doing it in her office. She's today, though, now she's seen things come around, and it just didn't happen overnight. But now that's what she needs to know. And just like a lot of us are, and Andrea needed to know. She had inbox chaos. Andrea thought that at the point in time, she was very automated because she had an email that was for service. She had an email that was for certs, or she had one for commissions. And that worked for a while, but there was no way to track that. There was no way to actually layer that or get that to the person it needed to go to. It was frustrating. And she had reactive service. Her people were not calling anybody. She literally listened to somebody call into her office, and there was a cross-selling opportunity. And when she asked her employee why she didn't cross-sell, she said, "I didn't want something more to do." Right? That's what was happening in Andrea's office. She was frustrated. She had a tired team. They're walking out the back door saying, "Oh my gosh, like, did I get anything accomplished today?" There was a bunch of platforms she was using. None of them were talking to each other, but yet everybody was telling her that she needed that. It was very frustrating. She heard Jeff Roy say something. She heard him say that AI will not replace agents, but those agents who use AI will replace those who don't. Now, looking at the slide, you can see the last two words are know-how. He never said that. I did. Because we assume that agents, just like Andrea, we assume that she just is not going to conform. We just assume that that's what she wants to do. She's worked her ass off for 15 years and built this agency, and now all of a sudden she's supposed to give up? No, that's not what she wants to do. That's not what she wants to do. But if someone would show her how, maybe she'd have a chance. And that's the whole reason why, because before I go on, I want to ask you a lot of you guys, right? Like, how many of you guys know an Andrea? And then be for real. No raise of hands. How many of us are Andrea? And it's okay, because like you're almost in the 80% crowd of the 80-20, if you are. That's the reason for the story. One day she's drinking coffee, sitting at work, trying to get ready for the day, trying to figure out how the hell she's going to go through all the emails, checking out downloads. What are the VPs doing? She has no clue what's going on. She just ran over her cat and had a flat tire yesterday, right? And then she happens to click on the one good thing that she can see. She sees that AI email, and she clicks on it, and she sees the AI 2030 Future Ready Tactical Manual. And she just doesn't, here's the thing, she doesn't skim through this. She actually reads it, right? She realized something that was different about this, right? She realized that this was built literally for agents. What she realized is that no one was coming to help her. And so she realized that this wasn't theory. It really, truly was. This was an actual playbook. This is a manual that I have taken, and I wish somebody would give it to me a while back. Because what we do is we look at Reagan's best practices, and the statistics they use are still needed and still desired today. They're still needed. But here's why I want to frame that for you. They tell us what our results are. It doesn't tell us how efficient we were when we were getting those results. Because we don't know, because we can't measure, because we're not routing. That's what because there's no structure. And that's what the manual helps show Andrea. Is that now she sees that it's not software. That's not what I'm teaching you. Okay. We're not trying to say that this is a sales pitch. It's not fluff. I'm telling you, I spent $4,700 of my own money to create it at the book and the audio book that'll be due out. I'm not trying to make money here. And that's one of the things that Andrea kind of noticed about it. Now, when she started looking at the book, there was one thing that really hit her, which was the revenue bands. And I talk about revenue bands in there, and she saw herself in this knowing that she was 1.6 million in revenue. That when she could see here that she fit right into revenue 2, and really revenue 2, that's when the friction starts, excuse me. That's when the agency really starts to stall, because now chaos is spread over 15 people. But when we were 600 or 800,000 in revenue, that chaos was spread over 4 or 5, and it was much more manageable because everybody could talk and work together. So now she starts to realize this, and this is really wild because in the manual, she shows, and just like we do, she realizes that inside there, it shows what revenue band she is and exactly what her agency should look like. What are the statistics? What are those stats that she needs for all everything? And she starts noticing that, like, really, you can measure yourself into what band you are. And so what she did is she immediately said, I'm going to create a baseline for who I am. She started looking at the manual. She took the formula. She looked at her finances, and she said, "If what's my AIS? That's our agency intelligence efficiency score." That takes a mixture of how well we're using our people, how well we're using our automation, how well we're using our platforms, and a few other things. And it brings it together to give you a true score. This will be a score that will be used just like all the 14 metrics that I put in there. But some of those will be used later in life, than some of them can be used now. She realized that her revenue per human layer, today we call that revenue per employee. My question to you is, why do we measure the revenue produced by an employee when an employee is not doing all the work? Bots are doing the work. BEs are doing the work. Why are we spreading it the way we are? No one knows the formula. Should I include the owner? Should I not include? Should I include counting? All those things are just guesses, and the consultants will told Andrea, well, just use a formula and make sure you use it every year, because then it'll be comparable. Right? But it didn't tell her how she was measuring it, and she was frustrated by that. And we're going to talk about that revenue per human layer, and then her artificial and automation intelligence index, or utilization. Sorry. So that's her utilization. That tells her, and her only automation she had was Google reviews. She had some things that would kind of tell them, hey, we opened up a service request, or hey, we closed it. They had some general, like, texting, maybe if 3 days out they were late on their bill. This was the only automation that she truly had, and she realized that she had to fix that. But she started with the baseline. She also realized that she had people doing all the wrong things. She had people doing work that bots could totally manage, right? Going out and getting cancellations. She had people who were going in and checking claims. She had people that were going in and trying to find out, I said notice of cancellations. Well, she had 7 of them. I can't think of them right now. She had those, or that's what she could have had. But she had those people who were going out there and doing all those work that those bots could have been doing. She was hiring around a problem. She said, we get more busy, so what do? We just hire another person, multiply the chaos, because now all we're doing is bringing them in. She knew that she was doing this wrong, but what other option did she have, right? But the manual was showing her that there was actually layers to this. We have licensed, we have VEs, we have VE managed, and we have autonomous bots. And we can measure everything that they do. And we can also put a price tag to everything that they can do. We also can route to everything that they do. That create less chaos, more clarity. She was overusing licensed talent, and she was utilizing her tech. There's also another one we call the LDI, which is the License Dependency Index. How much of your tasks are your licensed agents doing that do not require a license? Today, it's like, I do about 30%, 40%, and we're pulling it out of our you-know-what. What we're doing is, just like Andrea was doing, was just trying to figure out the best that she possibly could, doing what she knew how. There was totally different structure out there, but here's what the manual said for her. The manual took it and said there's 22 buckets. She could visualize that. There were 22 buckets that everything that happened in her agency, she could see. We couldn't find anything else, she said, that had to be done. Not only was it put into a bucket, but it was also routed to a handler. And if you notice, this is where she was confused, because she had always thought that VEs were going to disappear. But she also noticed that in the insurance world, at least for the next 3 to 5 years, VEs are going to be somebody that's going to be managed, because we will not manage people. Andrea said she is not going to continue to manage headcount. She is going to actually manage the system, and she's going to teach people how to manage a system. She's going to rename those people, and we're not going to name them by the fact that they're a CSR. We're going to actually, she said, we're going to name them by the type of job they do. And that is a totally different way of looking at it. This is in the manual. And she realized, okay, that right there is what I can do. If I can form a trigger, if I can start understanding what are some of the triggers that are happening, if I can be, is it need to be routed to a bot? Does it need to be routed to a VE? And then at the end, are we escalating it? Is there an escalation rule to a license? If it's not, can we measure it? I'll give you the exact, after we're done, I'll give you the exact method of how this will roll through. It's shown in the manual, but I'll talk to you a little bit more about it. Here was her first win. What she did is she had a VE managed bot triggering quoting. All right, she's got the licensed person taking it in, being recorded, answering the questions in Risk Advisor. Boom, it's going out. It's going to a VE managed bot, meaning bam, goes out to someone like a Gaia or whatever, goes out, does the quotes. Anytime it gets caught up, there's a VE who gets alerted by a dashboard. She had standardized templates, just like we do inside Risk Advisor. We had producers focused on advising. Now they're willing to ask a question because they know that, hey, I don't have to do all this work because it's not something that's on me. I'm actually going to hold conversations at a higher level. Inside the manual, I have a section in there called Elevated Conversations because we talk about all the time. Andrea said to herself, everybody tells me at conferences that I'm supposed to have these higher level education conversations because now I don't have to do these things. What are those? And that's what she found inside the manual. She realized that she saved 14 hours, and that was $10,500 in upsells. Now, what's crazy about that is what we call the swing. She was fascinated by this because one of the things she saw was a bigger swing at the beginning than ever. Andrea realized that she had tried for so long to do it the wrong way. She had realized that if she looked over the last 5 to 10 years of her production, no matter if she hired producers, lost producers, gained some staff, lost some staff, she would maybe grow 15%, maybe down to 7, maybe up to 12, maybe to 13. But there was a baseline that was just really hard for her to get past, maybe a spike here or there. And something clicked to her when she realized that utilizing the manual had helped her explain that you cannot produce your way out of an inefficiency in a chaotic situation. You have to cut the efficiencies first, and you have to swing the efficiency to the productivity. That's the only way it can get done, because you can't work your way out of it. And the more you work your way out of it, you're just literally throwing dirt right back in the hole that you're digging out from. So now she realized, though, with the efficiencies that were now coming as she was utilizing the AI, using the VE managed bots, using autonomous, getting the licensed staff to just do what they needed, she realized that she actually needed more of those front-type people. And that's where she got it. She saved, 64% on is what she gained in efficiency, and she swung that over to growth funded. As a side note, I would say that that's a little extreme, but I wanted to keep the math simple. Okay, I don't think you'd swing all that into efficiency, but once again, trying to keep the math simple. From one win to a system, she assigned her 22 buckets. We have done that. At the Insurance Alliance, we have done that. She did that. She started working with Michael. She started working with me, and we mapped out all of these buckets. By the way, she's fictional. Just play along with me. She deployed a claim follow-up agent. This was somebody who could go out and get those claims like the person that she had doing before. Now she had a bot doing that and bringing it into the AMS 360 and assigning it. And if it didn't get assigned, it went into a little task thing, a little Excel that said, hey, something was wrong here. VE managed that, right? Got away from a licensed person doing that. She started helping VE syncs weekly, started realizing that VEs are not CSRs. VEs are not account managers. VEs are not senior account managers. VEs are people who handle specific jobs in an office. And it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with doing an auto change. It has to do with helping manage the bot to do the auto change. That's what she realized. And that's where her efficiencies came from. And at the end of the day, she could track her AIES. She noticed that one of the things that she wanted, and one of the things that she realized that she could get with the routing manual, which is not mentioned in the manual, this is just for you guys, was maybe having something on the screen that no matter what browser she was on, if the phone rang, someone in her office could answer the phone and could say, hey, what do you need? Let's just say it was an auto change. Something would pop up, bam, here's the questions you answer, and then you submit it. You're going to learn inside the manual, we talk about micro projects. That's one thing Andrea really understood, because nothing had ever been able to be managed. But now that she was routing, now that she had structure, she's able to start measuring now. Now she's starting to be able to say, what does this look like and how well is my agency running? At first she had baselines, she didn't really know, but at the end of it, these were the increases that she saw. She saw her AIS go up to 84. Anything over 80 in a band 1 is phenomenal. Usually in a band 3 or higher, you're going to want to see that closer to a 90% because they should be in higher efficiencies using higher levels of AI agentic to be running a lot of the bots, which does start to eliminate some of the VEs. I see that in 5, 7, 10 years. Absolutely. AIU. Her automation and AI utilization is how I call it. That went up 32%. It wasn't huge. I want you to learn that. She learned that. It didn't take a lot for the efficiencies to be gained and for the productivity to be swung. Her revenue per human layer. She was now actually to understand that her revenue per human may have been 120, but there was other things that were coming in and making that higher. So rather than trying to think that we had 180,000 in revenue per employee, that's just not so, because we need to know where our revenue is coming from and our efficiency so we can cut them and swing it into the productivity. Andrea realized that. That's what she realized. So what changed most? Not her, her platform. The work stopped disappearing. There wasn't like, hey, did somebody handle that? Because it was all routed to a handler who handled it. Tasks were followed past, the team stopped guessing, and the agency began compounding. Very, very huge. But the most important part is her identity began to change. That was what was really cool, because what she said is she remembered back to what Jeff Roy had said, and then she remembered how Jason had said, know how. Well, now she knew how. And she knew that she's not going to be the one that's going to be replaced. And she never did. She never wanted to be. But everybody just assumed it. She went to conferences and everything, and you need all those. But this, the agency intelligence manual, I literally she realized that it was created so you could take it to a developer and say, hey, develop this. And you could do that. So where are you in this story? What process is draining your team today? I know what it is. There's 5 of them. Because it's over 65% of what you do, your agency does every day is all 5 of them. COIs, renewal prep, endorsements, billing, and did I say COIs already? COIs was one of them. Unless you deal with Miss Michelle, she can help you with that. And because I'm live right now, I can't think of the 5th. But this is where
Certificial.
What'd you say?
Certificial.
Certificial. What would why did I create this? I want you guys just like Andrea. Andrea realized she couldn't look back 3 years at Reagan's best practices for what we did then. We needed to look and we need to say, who do we need to grow to in 2020 and 2030? And that's the best way that I did it. Now, here's your call to action. What I want you to do is run a task audit. You can go inside the manual and it's going to tell you exactly what to do and tell you exactly how to do that. And it's going to give you the checklist and it's going to give you the timeline. Okay. Assign your 22 buckets. Use my map. And then assign those buckets. When something comes in, how does it come in? We'll do a loom, record the whole thing of what the person's doing, assign a person to it. Right? Assign those buckets. Assign somebody to those buckets. It's very, very important. It creates clarity. It routes. It's a structure. We can measure it. Okay? Launch your first agent. You guys probably a lot of you already done that. You just don't even realize it yet. And start scoring your AIES. Be the agent who transformed. Thank you very much for sitting here as my guinea pigs, as I did this the very first time. I want you guys to, if you haven't pulled up the manual yet because you don't know when and you just jumped on, you can hit that code. I'm hoping it's working. And that is the QR code that we have for you for the manual. Now, I did not look at any of the chat or anything. And my question to you is, how do I get my hands on the manual? Let me look at the chat real quick. Did we see anything come through that maybe I didn't answer? No, to track certs. Okay, yeah, CI sell. Okay, we got the CI certs. She's over here selling certs. You sure you're not in this business, Mosher? How do I get my hands on this manual? Thank you. All right, yes, George Travis, you can go to agencyintelligencemanual.com, or you can right there. You can click on that. Now, when I want to talk, because maybe I assume that people might have questions or some thoughts about, Jason, this makes sense in your head, but it doesn't make sense in mine. Let's have that conversation, and where can I help you, understand what maybe you need to do or how it fits in. Come on, hit me. Does anybody have anything?
Jason, can you describe the bots that you're talking about, where you find them, get them, buy them, use them?
Yeah. Keep in mind that we're talking about an agent of 2030. Okay. So a lot of the times that we're reading that, understand that we're talking about in that forward sense. But yes, there's bots you can use today. We use Adapt API. Once again, I want you to know that's why when you read the manual, there's no companies mentioned or anything in there. But I will tell you companies that I use. I use Adapt API, which goes out and gets cancellations or notice of cancellations, basically does around 7 or 8 things that I can't get downloaded through Ivans. That's my goal. If it doesn't come through Ivans, I need to be able to get it in here. However, I can get a bot for that. Adapt API, I think a good Quandary. Those guys are fantastic. They do the same thing. Gaia. So Gaia's coming out with more of that. We're starting to see as these companies come out, they're kind of jockeying for their own lanes. You're going to see situations where there's 4 types of agents. There's going to be the agent who's going to be big and huge, and they're just going to do their own thing and build their own thing, and they're not even going to be with us. The other 3 are who one of us are going to be. The other 3 are going to be, hey, I'm an agency. I want to control my own engine and everything, but I don't want to build it. But I want to have all my own VEs and everything. Those are going to be the people that are going to probably buy into an engine, a routing logic router, like shown in the agency manual. These are manuals. These are things that are already being built inside of agencies. Okay, so this is not superficial stuff. These things are being started. They're very early infancy, because I won't go into it now, but the cost of the GPUs is so much, it's too hard to bring down to an industry level yet. Not too hard, it's too expensive to bring down. It's expensive for OpenAI. We all hear about that on the news. It's too expensive for them right now. Because of that, technology has actually really kind of hit a wall. It's our ceiling. It's actually hit a ceiling to where until agentic AI, everybody's kind of building to the same thing right now. But they're jockeying for position. So you're going to be able to buy into an engine. You're also going to be able to say, hey, I don't want to do any of my service work. I just want to sell. And you're going to be able to offload all that stuff by your people being inside the system, bringing that out by bots, and then resurface it behind a wall, what we would know as a VE service today, which would be the same thing. Then you will have agents who will say, Jason, I want to build my own routing logic engine because I know how to do that, but I don't want to develop all the bots. So then there's going to be people who will buy those Netflix style. That's as clear as day for me. That's crystal Pepsi clear. And so those are, I hope that kind of answers, Gordon. Those are who one of us will all be. And I bet a lot of us will go the, hey, I want you to take care of this type thing. Because that's what everybody wants in a VE now, right? How do I just bring somebody in and they just do all this stuff and I don't have to train them? Well, that's what bots do, right? Now, what's the difference? I talk about this inside the manual. What's the difference between a bot and an agentic? It's very simple to understand this, okay? I explain it in the manual, but A bot is something, okay, let me put it to you this way. If you go to ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, and you're talking to it, essentially that's a bot. Let's just put it that way. But I'm still generating it. I'm still telling it what to do. It's just helping me put it together, like just the text together, if that makes sense. Agentic, Michelle will say, I need it to do this. I want to do this. And she's going to say, okay, and leave. And it's going to come back and everything's going to be done. It's going to have bought her plane tickets. It's going to have bought her rental car, email her mom saying all this stuff that the thing has. And it won't even necessarily need to run on a template because it will probably be about 15 times smarter than Michelle, I'm not going to keep using you, than me, because you know, and I'm a big idiot already. Whoever's the smartest person on this call is going to be 15% smarter than you. Okay, so we're back to you, Michelle. So I would say that's the way that I see that. So agentic will be one that will run, and then you will then move a VE to helping the agentic models. I would say, this is my personal opinion, and I listen to all of the smart people, the really smart people. I would say that everybody who says that it's dramatically going to change in the next year is overhyping it. I think in society things will, but inside the insurance industry, you will be doing things differently in 12 months. Believe me, you're just going to have to, because you're going to be like, holy cow, that's working. And what do I mean by working? You're going to see agencies are going to say, hey, I've done 300 changes on an auto and it's only messed up 5 times. But the VE caught it, right? Because remember, it doesn't do the final thing. It just does the whole auto change up to the point where it's time to issue. VE comes in and manages that, or a licensed person comes in and looks that over and then submits it. But everything else goes back to the agentic as they finalize it, get the applications done, attach it where they're supposed to, bring it back in, set up follow-ups for when everything's supposed to happen, 6 months check-ins with the thing, make sure their payroll's okay. All that stuff will be created by the agentic AI by doing that. And then there will be bots that it will control to make sure that it does all that stuff. That is probably realistically for an agency like us in the revenue band 1, 2, and 3, that's probably 3 years away. Where I think we will start to see major layoffs and stuff like that, like huge efficiencies. Guys, the average right now, according to best practices, is 55% revenue spent on your client. Okay, have $1 million revenue agency, $1 million revenue agency. You're spending $550,000. Best practices are spending $550,000 in labor out of that million. $550,000. Best practices. That means everybody else is about 60, 65%. Those numbers in 3 to 5 years will be below 30% for many agencies that take this serious. I'm not joking with you. It will be that dramatic. But I also think for the first 2, 3, 4 years, as we're gaining these efficiencies, the smart agencies will swing it into productivity. And that's where those agencies will now even distance themselves more, because now they have lower efficiencies and they're doubling on their production. And so that's where I see that. Anybody else? I think I will say this last thing. I think a lot of people that talk about it being crazy and wild, I think it is in society, but I still think it'll take a while for insurance. There's a lot of factors that can go wrong. Gaia tells a story all the time. They had a bot that if they didn't catch, which a VE did, which is great, that's this. It was an example that they could have canceled a policy that they weren't supposed to. So we can't have that happen. So it's going to take millions and millions and millions of transactions to be able to come up with systems that are going to be very sophisticated on that. Let me see. Does anybody else have any questions on maybe the tactical manual? I'll tell you, one of the things that's hard for me right now is repositioning my VEs. I'm starting it with Agency Zoom. So trying to create systematic automations and starting to get my VEs to manage those automations in a way that they did differently. I'm wanting them to understand that what can we automate, trying to get them used to how they're going to be intersecting with other bots that are going to be coming in. And they will be intersecting with those bots. So what we're doing is we're trying to help them with more of the automation, and actually, rather than just trying to say, hey, we trigger this or we trigger this, we're actually working with them to say, hey, how can we actually look at everything and trigger more automations, which means they have to pay more attention. What we're starting to realize is where the deficiency is, and I talk about it in the manual, this is real for us too, is dashboards. You hear these companies talking about like, hey, we can build you a dashboard that looks into your, and I've even kind of brushed that off at conventions. I'm kind of like, I don't know if I need that. I can pull reports pretty well and I've got really good data. No, that's actually going to become vital. But it's not the dashboards they're building. It will be based on the same APIs and connections they have, but it'll be more what we call, and I call in the manual, signals. It'll be more signal oriented, and their job will be, the VE's job will be to manage all those processes. You may have, this is important for you guys to understand as I watch this being built out. Right now, the fastest I've seen an endorsement done by a bot, meaning it, once information was taken, it took that information, went to the carrier, logged in or looked in the AMS, took the information, logged into the carrier, made the change. It was done in progressive, FYI. It made the change and it got to the very end before it had to run the reports, and it stopped and flagged the VE. Okay. Now that is done correctly about 70 to 75% of the time on a really good system right now. Okay, that's how many times it's done. That's pretty good. But the main driver of this is that oh gosh, okay, I got off there. So 66, 70, 70. Oh, the fastest that we're really seeing it done by anybody, it takes 8, 12, 15 minutes to do that change. Is that wild? Is that wild? So you're like, well, wait a minute, like my licensed person can almost do it. Well, today, I mean, the systems are a little slow, but once they learn, they get faster and faster and faster. But here's the key. You can do 20 of those at the same time. See? So even if it takes 5 minutes to do, you can do 20 auto changes, or you can be doing multiple changes all by being handled by Agentic through a lot of these bots. I know. I'm sorry. I don't want to get too big into it, but I think it's, I've demoed all these guys that are out there. I've looked at a lot of them. They all have great intentions. They're all kind of jockeying for their own lane. When I talk about Kai, when I talk about refocus, right? When I'm talking about Gaia, I'm talking about, I think their name's Deep Blue or whatever, that works, I think, a lot with Bradley Flowers and I think Ciara. A quandary. I see these businesses and they're ran by very, very good owners. But I also don't think that, here's one of their biggest weaknesses, and we know this for a fact. I'm just now realizing that Mitch Gibson is on here, my CTO. They're having a real hard time trying to figure out those 22 buckets and how to map them because they don't know workflows. It's really, really hard for them right now. And me and Mitch and a lot of another team have kind of realized that that's where the weakness is. And I think that's where a lot of their slow development comes, not on the technology side, but just trying to figure out how this agents actually work. We're a unique bunch, people. We're a unique bunch. Mitch, yeah, I don't know how long you've been on here. I really can't see anybody. I see a couple people right here, but anything that you want to add to this, Mitch? I'd be lying if I said Mitch didn't help me build some of this. Mitch?
I have been on for like the last 6.5 minutes. So I didn't really catch the whole gist, but I kind of can imagine. I haven't seen this presentation yet, so I was a little upset I couldn't make it.
Yeah, no big deal.
But on the same token, I think that, you guys hear me talk about all the time about just organization of your business and organization of your infrastructure and your internal communications and your processes and your procedures and why that's so important. Michael Cruz would tell me until his face was blue why an SOP was important, and I kind of just thought he was crazy. Right. But at the end of the day, there's reasoning, and it's not just about being OCD and organized. It's about setting up your business infrastructure for the future of insurance. If you want to survive, then again, you got to pivot and adjust with what's going on in the marketplace and give it a try. Not saying you got to master it. You just got to give it a try so that you're not behind trying to build when 50% of the industry has already got it done, right? So it's about just adjusting, trying, and giving it a shot.
On Fridays at 11:30, for all my companies, we all get on Teams and we just share what we're doing on Chat or Gemini or Claude. We're constantly trying to get our people. This is another part you have to think about. You got to be thinking about that. It's not so much your structure set up and made by people, right? Your people are going to manage the system, not you managing the people anymore. And for all of us who are terrible at structure, right? All of us, Andrea, you, everybody terrible at structure, this is our saving grace. This is our saving grace. I mean, when you can route things and you know it gets done exactly the same way every time, and then you have these people who kind of manage it to make sure when it doesn't, I mean, you know everything. You micro package it up, and when it's done at the end, you now have statistics that give you real time information into your agency. This is not Star Wars stuff. This is stuff that's being built and utilized in agencies right now. So that's very, very important to understand that. What you guys are looking at here, Mitch, I want you guys to remember this. Why is it important to have SOPs? I hate SOPs. I hate operating procedures. I'm one of my people that I like giving my people a starting point, an end point, and I give them how we do things in the office, and I like them to be able to do what they want to do. I really do. But Mitch has convinced me. He said to me one day, and I'm going to say it to you now, he said, Cass, when we have to go teach bots, how do you think we're going to teach them? I thought to myself, like, I guess you don't send them to class, do you? He said, bun text. They learn by reading or you typing or telling them something, dude. He said, so if you don't have SOPs, how are our bots going to know what to do? Right? One of the things you'll notice about, if you see my screen, I'm actually sharing. Are you guys seeing my inside of my SharePoint? If you're checking that out, this is, you can see how Mitch has worked our SharePoint because it has bots that crawl it. So whenever we need information as an agency, we can just ask it. Here on our homepage over here that he's made for us, we have an internal bot that says anything. I'll just do one I've done before, but anyways, just give you guys Erie payment plans. So if we don't know what Erie payment plans are, okay, and if you guys have Erie, you'll know they have 794 million payment plans. This right here gives us an exact. My team doesn't have to go to Erie, doesn't have to know that, doesn't have to be like, oh, doesn't have to go over and ask the CSR or the accountant. The producer can do this himself or herself, right? This is the kind of stuff that we're doing. And then we get like somebody new in that comes in and it's like, how do I add a contact to agency Zoom? Yeah, or AMS 360, whatever. It really sucks doing these things live. Okay, there you go. So it tells us exactly how to do that because Mitch has organized that back there. And then he also has little gimmicks and stuff as well that help that. One of the main parts is refreshing that. Something changes. Refreshing that's the part that can really be lame. So if you don't have bots, it's almost impossible to do that kind of stuff. So these are how we're utilizing some bots in our office. We use Gaia to do quotes. I could bring Lordlyn on here right now and she'll tell you that we can do an average. It takes around 7-10 minutes, depends on how many companies she's doing when we're doing an auto and home quote. So most agencies, it takes 30 minutes to an hour, and that's if the phone isn't ringing. But utilizing Risk Advisor, as this really gets Mitch excited, structuring our data by intaking it into a structured form allows AI to be able to read it and take it and do the work. But if we're not putting it into a structured form, Mitch has taught us, we're doing nothing. We're not allowed, the AI can't, it doesn't know it needs to know. It has to be structured. So just little things. These are some of the ways that we're using. Mitch, any other ways that we're using bots in our office?
No, other than like, Gail maybe answering the phone call and whatnot. And the only way we're kind of using those right now is not only trying to leave a paper trail inside of agency Zoom under that client, but also utilizing channels and Microsoft Teams to be notified once Gail has completed a call. So our service team, when they're in there chatting, they can see a quick little pop-up, call that client back or take action based off of what that call is about. Now the future state is us taking policy change over phone, right? Asking it structured data or asking the client structured questions based off of if it's a policy change with Erie. We're going to be scripted on what we have to ask, because once that phone call is hung up, imagine what that structured data is going to go do. It's going to go start the agentic and let the bots start going and working those policy changes for us and bringing them back into the ecosystem of the agency to finalize that change, right? It's that structuring everything that we do and not flying by the seam of your pants. I think that's probably the biggest difficulty with the agencies right now. I mean, me as a producer, if someone came to me and said, hey, you're going to stop doing that the way you're doing it, and you're producing $60,000, $70,000 a month, but you're going to now have to stop what you're doing and switch this way. I mean, it's a little bit difficult trying to working through those. But at the end of the day, it's the quicker you can get organized and structured, the easier it's going to be for you to feed whatever long language model it is to create your agentics.
So good question. So that's going to be like that E&O, right? Michael Blake asked a question. If you guys don't know Mike Blake out of the great state of Texas, he's a fantastic gentleman. Are any of these AI engines you're now using SOC 2 certified yet? Everybody, that's if you handle and utilize data, you have to have this certification. It's very amazing because when we look into it based on some of the things that we've looked at, that can be as much as $2,000 to $5,000 a month just to be a SOC 2 certified, and then you get audits and stuff. Just to know this, agents, you want a company that's going to be SOC 2 certified. So thank you, Michael, for bringing that up. That is something you probably want to talk about. Now, I wouldn't say that that's needed for if you're dealing with a VE company. This is if you're dealing with, a bot who is taking your information and you're sending it to their network somewhere and they're holding on to it. Because you better believe it, it's a data transfer, right? And everybody who can get data, that could become useful to them. So if it's another company, you want to make sure that they're SOC 2 certified. People don't talk about that, but I'm starting to see that a lot. Good question, Michael. Thank you very much, sir. Elise, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while. Any questions you have? You're a very futuristic, smaller, maneuverable agency. How are you? Any thoughts?
Good. How are you? Yeah, I actually, when you said that these aren't CSRs, I was looking at the task routing buckets. I was getting confused, but then I realized you said that it's not based off their roles, but rather based off handling that individual task type. So technically, a lot of those buckets fall under CSR, but some of them could be handled by bots or VEs or bot handled by a V. So I understand it.
Correct. And a lot of those you can't do today, right? But we do know these are all the buckets, and we do know that these would be the people handling them. And what I'm trying to show people is that, and if you look in the manual, I also do a whole section on sales buckets. Because once you bring in the sales conversation, there's 5 roughly buckets there, and those are almost all dominated by licensed people. So you may not see a bunch of licensed on the service, but you're going to see a lot more when you're looking at the sales buckets. Okay, so that was something that I wanted to certify there. Guys, I got to share one more thing here with you, which was really awesome. I had an agent actually email me, and he read the manual, and he actually measured.
This is cool.
Yeah.
This is sweet.
Yeah, he actually measured himself against the manual. I got to be honest with you guys, it blew me away. And he said that I can use his name, so it's completely fine. I'm actually going to do a podcast with him. But here's what he's a champion, actually, Michelle. Joel Dunham, he comes to Mastermind and BrainShare every year. Here's what he said. He said that happy to join this podcast. That's where I was asking him, because I want him to come on and show people this. But he actually he figured out, there's a core A, core B, and then there's is it core A and core B, or is it core and core? Yes, I can't remember the manual. I did it a month and a half ago. I'm doing the book now. Anyway, so the core A, I think he's around 800,000. He's under the million. And so he looked at that and then measured his numbers, went down, found his financials, did his numbers, and then measured them against what I estimate you will need to look like in that year. Now, he admits right now he just did an acquisition, so he's got a lot of revenue and not enough people yet to fill that. So it's a little, like he said, he's like, we're a little thin. So that RHL, the revenue per human and layer, he said it's probably a little high than it probably really is, but he's really excited about where they're at and what they're doing. I was delighted to see that somebody actually was taking this so serious, just like I was, to be able to say like, hey, these are what our scores are. And I think it's exciting if any of you guys do that. So I've talked enough. If anyone else has anything else, I would love to hear your thoughts, hear your ideas. Please make sure you come to BrainShare 2026 AI and Indie Tech. BrainShare and Indie Tech will open to the general public on August 1st. All champions who are in the mastermind start July 1st. So I imagine if you're not a champion around August 1st, there's not going to be many BrainShare seats left. You've never been to a BrainShare. It's a day and a half with beautiful, wonderful, awesome agents like me and Michelle. And we sit in their room with all kinds of microphones floating around. We're talking, we're sharing things. We're sitting at circular tables, usually 6 people at each. And we're just really trying to help each other and share ideas. It's a really electric thing. It's not a conference or anything. Conference starts that next day in the next 2 days, which is Indie Tech. And you guys need to come to that. We have 27 classes where people like Gordon, if you'll accept my invitation, and other geniuses out there who are using automation, not necessarily AI. I mean, let's be honest, as I said, this is brand new to us. I just wanted you to know the how so that you could start building towards it. But there are 27 classes that are built towards that. I'm only having 3 main stage speakers, because who cares about the main stage BS? I want to know from actual agents, how are you utilizing this in your agency? So you need to come to Indie Tech to see that. And then a huge party on Thursday night. I'm bringing in the DJ from the St. Louis Cardinals. He's a friend of mine. We're going to blow the doors off this place in Fort Lauderdale. Ooh, it's going to be nice. Ooh, it's going to be nice. Ooh, it's going to be nice. So anyways, make sure that you guys try to come to that, okay? January 27th, 28th, and 29th. All right. Come on, someone tell me I'm crazy or some shit. But if you say it, you got to tell me why.
Crazy in lots of reasons, but
Mitch, I said you got to tell me why.
This AI one, you're not, right? You're crazy in many ways, but this manual thing has blown my mind away, and you know that.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, okay. All right. This is a good rebound, Mitch. All right, hey. I appreciate every one of you. Also, remember, if you need a VE, we have VEs. We can help you out. Virtual Intel, we have high-level VEs. I just say that they're pretty good. I know we have a lot of clients on here, and a lot of people on here have had them for a long time. I kind of says something. So thank you very much, everybody, for everything that you do. If you need me and you want to reach out to me, just hit me at jason@agency-intelligence.com. I'll hook up with you one-on-one, talk to you about the manual, talk to you about Indie Tech, talk to you about VEs, jason@agency-intelligence.com. Just give me a call again. Just let me know, all right? Also, talk to Michelle if you need to know about certificate companies. Bye-bye.